A young man horrifically taken by a great white shark.
Reported fatal attacks involving multiple sharks like this.
Calm diving session between two friends turned into a horrible nightmare.
Gerald Layer could not believe his eyes as he saw his friend Robert Pamperin shooting out of the water, screaming help. He watched in horror as Pamperin disappeared beneath the surface in a pool of blood. Starred out of his wits, he dove under to help his friend, but what he saw left him reeling. There was Pamperin, without his mask, being thrashed around by the biggest shark he had ever seen. Against his better judgment, he decided to leave, propelling himself towards the shore with each stroke. Pamperin was left to fend for himself in the water. It was supposed to be a fun day of diving in Jolla Cove, but instead it turned into a bloody nightmare. Every summer, the warm waters of Jolla shores in San Diego, California, play host to thousands of leopard sharks gathering there for the breeding season. While they are completely harmless to humans, the irony is how Jolla, a relatively safe spot, has seen two of the worst shark attacks in history. The fatal attack on Robert Pamperin on Sunday, June 14, 1959, sent shockwaves across the country. It also triggered widespread debate, especially in the fishing community of San Diego. No one wanted to believe a shark attacked Pamperin, least of all a monster that looked like the shark from Jaws came to life. One resident claimed he saw Pamperin in Mexico. Despite the controversy, nothing can stop the experience of the primary witness, Gerald Layer, who was swimming just a few feet from Pamperin. Layer recalls seeing his friend in death throes, mangled by the monstrous shark, which looked like it was trying to spit Pamperin's carcass out. "I was under the surface," Layer said. "I looked up and saw the white belly of the shark and came up right away. Bob was yelling and I shouted for help, then began swimming ashore." In June 1959, 33-year-old Robert Pamperin and 30-year-old Gerald Layer had decided to go free diving in Alligator Head. As everyone in San Diego knows, Alligator Head is a popular diving spot in the west end of Jolla Cove. For both friends, one of the items on their bucket list was to go abalone hunting. It would be fun. The experience would be a lifetime one. Unfortunately, they had no idea what laid in store for them. Jolla Cove, surrounded by rocky cliffs, was one of the most sought-after tourist destinations in the 60s. It was great for snorkeling and scuba diving. Considered extremely safe, there had never been a shark attack, meaning divers could experience all the amazing marine life without fear. On that ill-fated day in June, while tourists preferred staying indoors on a Sunday, Robert Pamperin and Gerald Layer decided to grab the opportunity to dive for abalone. The absence of crowds made it an even better experience. Abalones are these large, oyster-looking things that live in salt water. Abalones are hunted for their tender and deeply flavored meat. They are considered quite a delicacy and expensive. You can make a real killing selling abalone, so I'm guessing that was what Robert and Gerald had in mind that day. Robert and Gerald had been friends for over 2 years. Robert introduced Gerald to diving and suggested they go abalone hunting in Jolla. They finally decided that June that they would take their wives with them on a trip. It was almost Gerald's honeymoon because he had just gotten married a month earlier. On the day of the attack, they decided to go to the Bird Rock area to look for abalone. Now, everyone who loves the sea and sand in Jolla knows how Bird Rock is one amazing neighborhood. It lies tucked away on the San Diego coast and is famous for its incredible ocean views. It was a calm, sunny day. Now, abalone fishing does need equipment, so the men packed their swim fins, masks, diving gloves, and an abalone iron, which must be attached to the wrist lest the diver loses it. While the women decided to stay on the beach to sunbathe, the two men went off on their own into the shallow water. With just swimming trunks and no professional diving suit, the surf of the cove proved too strong for them. They decided to go to Alligator Rock, known to many of the locals as Alligator Head. An excited Robert ran into the water first, chasing a large wave. Gerald remained on the rock. He wouldn't fight the waves, that wasn't for him. He found a rock and stood there watching Robert swim past the surf line. Gerald soon found his sweet spot and waded into the water, swimming towards Robert, who was around 60 feet away. Suddenly, Gerald saw Robert lunging out of the water. He shot out fast and high, screaming, "Help!" How the heck did he do that, Gerald thought to himself. But drowning his thoughts were Robert's screams. What the heck was going on, thought Gerald. Did Robert get cramps? That is entirely possible, but he could not have jumped that high if he did. Gerald decided to swim faster, but when he neared Robert, his eyes popped and the water around Robert was bubbling and red. Gerald then dove beneath the surface, and what he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. It was a big white shark, the kind you see in movies. The only difference here was Gerald was seeing one live just 5 feet away from him, and it was eating his friend whole. Every inch of Gerald's being screamed to him, "Don't move." That very moment seemed to last forever. All Gerald saw was Robert being thrashed around by the great white. He could make out Robert's upper torso, his arms waving like that of a rag doll, and he was probably already dead. When you're attacked by a monster that large, a single chomp is enough to kill. It was a great white, although he wasn't sure. What he was sure about was how this shark was a monster. It looked no less than 20 feet long and seemed to be on a sandhead, whether it was eating the rest of Robert or spitting him out. Gerald couldn't make out. All he knew was how everything seemed to suddenly turn in slow motion. His arms felt like they were heavyweights. He saw Robert's abalone iron still attached to his wrist. It moved vigorously as the shark jerked around Robert ferociously. Gerald suddenly came to his senses and dashed to the surface. He took a deep breath and dived under again, thrashing his arms wildly, hoping to scare away the shark. It was no use though, because Robert had already become a half-eaten carcass. The shark kept mauling, ignoring the insignificant human, trying to save his long-gone friend. Gerald realized it was useless and knew he needed to escape. He could be next. That thought made him panic, and like some ninja, he almost ran out of the water to shore. As soon as Gerald reported Robert's death, scores of divers from Scrimp's Institution of Oceanography combed the area, but the search proved fruitless. They kept diving until it was dark, but no sign of Robert or the shark was there. Not a shred of his body or gear or diving equipment was found that day. Robert had simply disappeared. In the aftermath of the incident, Gerald was interrogated, interviewed, and even asked to testify in court about what had happened. He went over his narrative repeatedly, describing the shark's enormous size. He said it was 20 feet long and 3 feet in diameter. He even described the size of its teeth, which were 2 inches long. A few days later, a fin with shark's teeth marks was washed ashore on Jolla Shores beach. It bore the initials RP, which belonged to Robert Pamperin. Strolling on the beach at that moment was William Eppets, who was picnicking at the cove. Seeing Gerald emerge from the water, he ran to help him. It was obvious how he looked. The man was in shock. Gerald's face was white, his eyes were enormous, and he was terrified, as if he had just fought with a ghost. Yet he could speak and narrate what he had just seen. The gruesome attack sent shivers down the local community, and businesses came to a standstill. Despite Gerald insisting he saw what he saw, many questioned his story. Among the doubters were Jim Stewart, one of the Scrimp's divers and a search party member. Jimmy, an attack victim himself, felt it was impossible that Robert could have been attacked by a shark. He said to reporters, "I was one of the first people in the water when that shark attack happened. There's not a shark alive that can swim off with that large man, yet not a piece of him was found." He was a former lifeguard, standing at a strapping 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing 200 pounds. In Gerald's defense, some shark experts say yes, a 20-foot great white has been known to carry off 500-pound sea lions. A 200-pound man would be nothing more than an appetizer. Heck, even reindeer have been found inside the stomachs of a great white. Great white sharks belong to a family of lamnidae, or mackerel sharks. They can grow over 20 feet long, weigh over 3 tons, and are easy 4 to 5 feet in diameter. Now with their serrated triangular teeth, these monsters can saw off chunks of flesh. Moreover, they scan the surface looking for prey, and chances are the shark that attacked Robert is already there waiting in the shallows to ambush them. Gerald felt it could have been Robert's abalone iron, which could have attracted the shark. When these creatures attack, they chomp hard to initiate shock and instant blood loss. They then wait for their victims to die before finishing their meal. It seems that's exactly what happened to Robert, and what Gerald saw was his friend being eaten whole. What's more, Robert in his swimsuit could have looked like a seal lounging on the surface, bringing about the attack. But what do you think? Did Robert Pamperin die from a shark wound? Is there some remote possibility he died of another cause? We may never know, but what we definitely know is what happened in the Trouble in Paradise shown on screen.